Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Devil Province. Today on the podcast we have Miniguy.
Hello.
Starting off with our first question, how long have you been playing Realm of the Mad God?
So I've been playing Realm for I want to say about 4 years, but I've been garbage for the majority of that time. Because I joined when Kabam was messing with things, mostly. And I had some interesting experiences with pets very quickly. And I think, I want to say after about a year of playing, I was like, okay, this is not fun. And a few friends of mine, actually at school, were playing a private server called Nilly's Realm. Someone might have heard of it. And they told me to try it instead because it was supposedly slightly less bullshit in terms of the amount that pets can influence gameplay. And I know pets are obviously very controversial, but I was not a fan. And they told me that Nilly's Realm had that to a much lesser extent. So I gave that a try and I liked it a lot, but there were a lot of other problems, like the fact that it went down every hour and whatever else. Lots of issues there. But I've been playing Realm, or I started playing Realm like 4 years ago-ish.
I do think pets are an important part of Realm nowadays, just because it's where a lot of their revenue comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure Deca appreciates like a little bit of revenue here from like pet food or like Realm Gold to upgrade a pet yard. But, you know,
Definitely
like
agree.
from a gameplay perspective, they are pretty overpowered and they make the game pretty boring. Like, you used to manage vit rings at a time so that you could regain health passively, and then now you
I've
just
seen
kind of
videos of people doing it.
yeah, it used
where
to
you just like, swap out rings and stuff.
yeah, you used to have swap out rings for defense when you went to Sprite Worlds and stuff, and just vitality. And after a while, when pets came out, people started upgrading their pets and realizing heal and magic heal were just really overpowered, and they started getting those two abilities. And it when you have like a max divine pet, I think somebody said it's basically like 950 vitality or maybe 600, but it's a major amount. It's an ungodly amount compared to something like the sorcerer has 60 or 75, and that's what made him good.
I don't want to immediately jump in and start flaming Deca, but one of the biggest things, or I guess biggest frustrations I have with it, is that there are so many ways to successfully monetize this type of game that do not involve paying for power, I guess is the way I'd put it. Obviously, like I'm not sharing like individual numbers, but like, you know, we've monetized our RotF as well, and there are no pets, and the closest thing you can do to paying for power is you can buy keys. Other than that, it's all cosmetic. You know, you can get name color pills. You can get what else? Like fire swords, which give like slight loot boost. Like it's very, very, very minimal. There's no direct healing, nothing like that. And I mean, obviously, we're not a full studio. You know, we're not Deca Games. We're not. You know, we don't have an HQ or anything like that. So our bills are significantly lower, of course. But I mean, we've been profitable enough to like sustain the server, sustain ourselves. Like there are clearly other ways you can monetize it. I think the hardest part is that they've kind of been locked in by the pet system that was invented by Kabam or whoever else. And at this point, you can't just remove the pets from the game. You know, people have invested however much money and time into leveling them up. But it's kind of a flawed system.
It is. It definitely is.
And I know I mentioned this a while ago, but the fact that a lot of their recent content revolves around effects like pet stasis, or in the case of the new heroic dungeons, removing pets entirely, that should kind of give you a nudge, maybe this isn't the best mechanic to have in the game.
I'm sure they understand that. I mean, yeah, they are pretty locked in by what Kabam kind of left them. They just kind of threw them the scraps, but I think Deca's been doing pretty good for the game, and I think with the introduction of heroic dungeons, which I was very excited about, and I very much enjoyed playing in the heroic dungeons because it felt like
Me
old
too.
Realm.
I played on testing. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so much fun. It felt so much like Realm. Before.
I was about to say, it felt like old Realm, honestly.
Yeah, it's basically...
I know I played mostly after that started happening, but it felt like when I was first playing, when it was fun, when it did feel fun.
I did as well, but I played without a pet for my first 6 months, which was extremely hard in a game built around pets and balanced around pets already. But I very much enjoyed doing sewers and playing conservative. Mm-hmm. Trying to manage my HP pots, going to O2 and being really excited about picking up like a tier 10 staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the bullet hells in general feel good when you're dodging things. Like, I know that sounds really obvious and blatantly whatever, but at this point you can kind of just run into a decent number of enemies and not care with, pallies and priests and pets and whatever else. Like, when you play Gungeon or whatever other, like, bullet hell games that involve, like, careful dodging and planning on how you're gonna, learn certain enemy patterns or whatever else, like, it feels really cool to weave in and out of the bullets. I just don't feel that in Realm a lot sometimes.
Have you played like other bullet hell games before? Maybe like Toho?
Biggest one is definitely Gungeon.
Gungeon's a good one.
Gungeon's super fun, so fun, so fun. Love that game. We started working, actually, just as a side note. Oh, by the way, I obviously, I'm sure anyone listening by now has figured it out, but I'm one of the developers of RotF, Revenge of the Fallen, a private server. Probably should have mentioned that.
Oh, whoops. We'll just edit it in. Oh well.
Yep, cool. All good. So one of the things that I've been working, or that I worked on with my co-developers for a bit, although it's on pause for now, is we were working on a standalone game. And a lot of the, like, graphics and style and stuff was very much inspired by Gungeon, because honestly, like, the cutesy pixel art graphics combined with this, like, super unforgiving environment is so fun. Such a great game.
I love the game concept. Game. Nice. I love the game concept a lot.
Yeah.
It's bullet hells have been one of my favorite games, and Realm of the Mad God introduced to me a year and a half ago by one of my friends. They taught me how to play the game, and I very much enjoyed it simply because it was a bullet hell, and it was an MMO in one. I felt that was very unique. I wish you've heard of Survived By, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Aren't they closing down?
Yeah, they already closed down. That was about April 16th, I think. Yeah, it was so pretty fast. It's there's probably like some mismanagement among staff. I feel like there were a lot of bugs that were persisting that never got fixed, and little attention was given by a lot of producers of the game and programmers.
Yeah. Were you playing it a lot?
Yeah, I was playing it pretty frequently. I tried keeping up with the game as much as I could. I even wanted to invite their PR manager for an interview, but after the game closed down, I decided maybe now isn't a good time.
Yeah, probably a bit late on that.
A little
too bad. It looked really promising. The main thing I noticed, just like looking at the game art and playing even for a few minutes, the tutorial was really cool. The whole thing was great. And then right after you get out of the starting area, I looked at the environment and I was like, like, the tiles don't really blend as well as they should. It's hard to, differentiate between the monsters and the environment. And there were all sorts of small things that, like, when fixed, could have made a really, really, really good game. But there were a lot of small things playing it for the first time where I was like, this just makes me feel disconnected, and they just never resolved them.
It feels kind of messy, doesn't it? Especially with, like, you see the pitfalls in the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were, they looked really awkward because they were impassable terrain, and I guess it was sort of a placeholder during the beta, and then once they went to early access, they never updated the game graphically.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there used to be randomized monsters that had randomized parts, sort of like Starbound functions. And
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is a very cool feature, but then they opted for preset monster models.
Did the differentiating parts actually affect how they attacked, or just style points?
Just style points.
Okay, well, that's still cool. Still cool.
It is cool, though, yeah.
Like style points.
So how did you first get into playing Realm of the Mad God?
So I mentioned it earlier, but a few friends literally at school were playing the original game first. And I was like, what is that? Because also, as a side note, there are not that many games at my old school anyway that were not blocked by the web filter.
Yeah, well, nice.
Realm of the Mad God was one of very few that you could still play. And they were all playing it, so I logged in. I died at level 1 with 0 fame, which was really solid.
Extra.
Yeah, super good. And then I learned how to play a bit better. Like, low bar, of course, but I learned how to actually play, and then got frustrated by pet gameplay. But it was first just because it was the only game at my school that was not blocked.
That's completely fair.
I mean, it worked out.
yeah. Now you have Revenge of the Fallen going for you.
Yeah.
I always.
Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, I keep almost saying Realm of the Fallen because
So I've seen so many like butcherings of the name. Because I even see YouTube videos of it. I've seen Realm of the Fallen, Revenge of the like. What else did I see? I forget, but I've seen so many wacky things. I've seen like Rise of the Fallen, which is actually a real MMO, like not like a Realm private server. There's a game called Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Oh, maybe let's see. Is that what it's called? No, I'm forgetting.
gotta find
Yeah,
out.
it definitely is. Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. That's a real game. So,
Yeah,
seen a lot of misspellings, or that's not right. Misinterpretations, sure,
yeah,
of
misinterpretation of
ROTF,
the name. Yeah,
but it is Revenge of the Fallen. So yeah, so now we have Revenge of the Fallen. So I work on it developer wise, I work on it with two other people, me, someone named Mike, and someone named Skilly. Obviously, his name isn't really Skilly, but his name's like Polish, and it's too hard to say. So I give up. He's just Skilly. Yeah, and Mike is Danish, but his name is still Mike. I don't get it, but it works. So yeah, so we're the three main developers of ROTF, which is a Realm of the Mad God private server, and there have like been a lot of Realm like private server projects over the years. There's been Nilly's Realm that people have probably heard of, Valor maybe, a few other like relatively big names. But most of them, even at their peaks, only had like 100 player stops on at once, which is cool. That's pretty impressive. But none of them were actually looking to make like a game. They were all looking to make a private server, or just to practice programming, or just have honestly have access to /give. I mean, there's really there's a lot of different reasons that people would host private servers. But not many people actually had the goal of making like a standalone game of, hey, here's an alternative to Realm of the Mad God. And I think the few people that did have that intention didn't necessarily have the knowledge to make it work. So we actually set out, at least within the past year or so, as we've worked on the game and as we've updated it, to make, hey, here's an alternative experience to Realm. Here's where we remove pets. Yeah, those pets. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. And we strip out some of the content we don't like, and then to compensate for loss of power and pets, whatever, we have things like runes and other stuff to bring back power to the players. But the goal was really to make a version of Realm that doesn't have the stuff that we personally don't like, and it turns out that there are other people who also don't like those things. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's many people who don't like, but there's a very, very large group of people in Realm of the Mad God who don't like pets. I would definitely be one of them.
Play ROTF.
I'll try it out sometime. Jacob's
really
been playing it quite a bit, and he even, I don't know, when he asked you like that thing about what was it, being 1616?
The skill tree?
Yeah, the skill tree.
So there used to be 16
interested.
out of 16. Sorry, yeah. There used to be 16 out of 16, which was what was called the Star Force. There was a second, like, higher tier realm where you could basically double your stat points, or it wasn't exactly double, but you could double the number of potions you'd consume and get way stronger. That was eventually reworked and removed, so the max stats are still 8/8, but there is a separate thing called the skill tree where you can farm in what are called galaxies. The idea is that you go to the vault, you enter a galaxy, and you farm in these small, like 1 to 4 player dungeons that are never ending, sort of like Sealand. And you can get skill points in that dungeon and get, small stat increases, like whether it's HP or loot boost or, speed or whatever else. So yeah, he was asking about the skill tree. How do you get what's called, I think he probably was asking about 82 out of 82. These stat boosts are just tiny, tiny little, pings of extra power. So, again, like plus 1% HP or something like that. Tiny pieces of power, but they add up. The idea is that each time you consume a galactic essence, you can get one more stat point, and you can max out this giant skill tree. And it's pretty cool. I remember when we released it, the skill tree is hidden. You got to choose, a node and then, build outwards like most skill trees. And I remember releasing it thinking, I wonder how long it'll take people to figure out, where all the nodes are and, what the optimal builds are. And within like a few days, I'm seeing like build paths in a wiki, and I'm like, whoa, okay. That's really cool.
Yeah, that is nice to have, like versatility in character building. I wish that was something that you had in Realm of the Mad God.
It's also cool because like it's sort of really natural. Like we don't tell you what you have to do, and suddenly you have people saying, "Yeah, of course you take B fact on priest, hello," or actually don't do that. Of course you take B work on priest. I misspoke. Don't do that. Don't take B fact. But this rune is essential on this character, or of course you build a skill tree like this, and once one player finds an optimal build for that, for whatever patch or for whatever items, it's like, oh, of course. But until that happens, it's really natural. You see these people coming out with like, build ideas. Someone figured out that there's a pretty stupid strategy you can do with the rune called Pothead, which makes that when you consume pots instead of healing, you get some extra stats. Like there's all sorts of cool things that players figure out on their own, and it's really cool to see happen.
So like a real MMO.
Yeah, something like that.
I wish Realm was a real
speaking
MMO.
of real MMOs, we have a market.
Oh?
Yeah. Realm should have that.
Yeah, that is definitely
thread.
something people have been requesting for a while. I can see the complications programming-wise, though, because of the way that Realm of the Mad God set up. God give us the Unity client.
So, I mean, in fairness, we do see the complications in programming on market, but at the same time, we did it. So
no excuses.
So, right, and it's like, well, yes, we understand, but at the same time, we're 3 developers, who are not, who are definitely not salaried by Deca.
Oh yeah.
But we still did it. Actually, the market system is almost entirely one person.
Oh nice.
So
who would that be?
That would be Skilly. I mean, I did some changes here and there, but almost all of the current market, especially the server part, is done by one person, Skilly.
Skilly OP?
Yeah, Skilly's a great programmer. So, like, when you consider that pretty much one guy, one Polish man, just came in and basically wrote a market system. I mean, it wasn't flawless. In fact, when it was first released, there was a pretty bad dupe possible with it.
There are a lot of dupe possibilities with a market program.
Yeah, but the thing is, we fixed all of them. At least as far as we know. Please, nobody check that, please.
Well, please don't check that, but like report it.
Actually, yeah, please check that. But also, when you find the dupe that is inevitably going to be somewhere, don't use it. Come find me. Let's fix it.
There's always a way.
As far as we know, there are no dupes available right now, or possible right now, without doing the old, Deca style crash the server until we dupe items move, which is, I believe, still possible.
It is still possible, indeed. You can crash the... Well, I don't know about duping through crashing the server still being possible, but you can crash the Deca servers very easily.
Okay. Well, a while ago it was possible to basically cause like a semi rollback through a crash, and you could dupe items. But like that's just awful.
I think you're able to do that through realms. People would lag the realms that
yeah,
as a side effect.
Just like that then. Yeah. So that's awful. Wow. Yeah. I guess it's possible you can't lag the realms like that for us, but you could possibly crash the server and dupe maybe, but let's not do that.
Well,
Let's not do that.
Try it, maybe.
All right, let me just slash ban.
No. Oh, nice.
But yeah, as far as we know, there are no dupes possible right now, and we have a market system that we think is pretty good and like relatively fast and whatever else, and it works. And I think it makes the game much more interactive. It makes guilds feel much better because you can even just be like, you get a loot, it announces it in the chat, and you go put it on the market. Everyone can see it. It's just nice.
Yeah, I want to see what I want to see in Realm of the Mad God are commerce guilds, because in MMOs often I would participate in commerce guilds because they were just marketing was very interesting to me, and I liked both collecting items and marketing them off. Usually when you would farm like a boss for a rare item, yada yada, typical.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the existence of trading guilds and stuff like that. It's really, really good. Obviously that for now can't really exist in Realm, even with a market, just because like the way guilds are designed and what they can and can't do right now makes it borderline useless. Like guilds as a whole actually in Realm are more honestly for style points and being with people than like giving you any additional functionality. Like the guild hall is like, okay, you can pop keys. But
Yeah.
is that it?
I mean, like, with how Bazaars work now and, Discords, what's the point in running shatters when you can run it with 30 people and have it done in 2 seconds?
That too. Which, I mean, slight fix for that, though it's far from a perfect system. We have thresholds in ROTF, so if you don't hit a certain percent of damage, or like SB damage, you're not eligible for that loot, so you don't want to enter a giant dungeon. Or a dungeon with a lot of people is what I mean to say.
I think a Realm of the Mad Guy should definitely be like that, yeah.
You have to be careful, though, because if you set the threshold too high, it makes it feel super unfair and hard to get loot, so it's a tight... it's a tightrope.
The biggest problem is support classes, like Priest.
Yeah, exactly. The system that we've been looking into adding recently is a class-based threshold. So depending on the class you're playing, it's a different threshold. But we've... having to set a manual threshold for every boss for every class is really tedious. We haven't gotten around to it yet.
What if you were to account for healing? Or
so we thought about it, but
duration?
there's so many ways that could be abused. Even just even snake oils, there's so many goofy ways where we're worried about doing that.
I mean, there definitely could, but I don't think a snake oil is going to catch up to the amount of healing that a paladin does.
Okay, fair.
And that's a paladin. Like a priest in a very large group. Oh, actually, because if you're in a very large group, then healers get a majority of SB damage. Then that would be hard to balance.
Which is why it's really hard to balance. You see what I'm saying? It's a good idea, but it's just so hard to be do we cap it at this percent? Does it only affect threshold? Should it affect loot boost or anything like that? There are enough, I guess, variables that make you wonder, is this a good idea, that we just haven't done it?
Yeah, that just hit me. Oh well, I mean that's how ideas form. You get them and you try to shoot them down as fast as possible, see if they work.
And then if it survives, it must be good.
Yeah.
Jumping back to what you said earlier about the Unity client, though, and the market specifically relating to the Unity client, I want to talk about this because there's I want to say a pretty big misunderstanding from a decent number of community members about what the Unity client can and can't do for the game. I remember in the GHCD podcast, actually, Hayes said something about the serviceability being so much better. It can be so much better with the new Unity client and all that stuff. Well, the thing is, that's the client. That won't affect serviceability. I mean, it'll be great for the players, right? Obviously, you'll hope, God willing, have higher frames and better stability and maybe even cross-platform stuff. That's all really good, and I'm excited for that. But things like crashing out of a dungeon or something like that, Unity won't fix that. That's a server issue, and Unity, for the most part, as far as I know, won't affect the server at all. I think the plan actually is to have it run alongside Flash until it gets deprecated. So if the server isn't being changed really at all, or not too much, so that it's still compatible with Flash for the time being, and it's just Unity being added to the mix so that it's a more stable client, which is great, but it's just Unity being added, you aren't actually going to wind up with massive improvements on the page of server lag and server crashes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, of course. I think most of what he was referring to was client crashing, because there is there are a lot of memory issues with Realm of the Mad God, and
the mini map just casually disappears.
Yeah, single core processing.
Yes.
Or wait, is it single core or single thread?
Unity is also heavily single threaded, so I'd be careful with that.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm just trying to get past terminology here because they can.
No, you're good. I don't even know what the exact term would be for the Flash issue, but I mean, the whole of it is just that Flash is a generally outdated technology, whether it's for rendering or networking or whatever else. It's just going to be slow. And you combine that with the fact that it's being deprecated in 2020, we're on a time bomb.
Yeah, 8 months and it's gone.
Yes.
We lose all support from Adobe.
Yes.
I mean, you won't.
It's kind of nice though, because Deca wasn't going to do it, I don't think. And then, so Chrome's dropping Flash, so Firefox is dropping Flash, so Adobe's shit.
Everybody's dropping Flash for a reason, and they're going to stop hosting files for it, most likely. Like the projector and Flash player support.
I hope so.
I hope they do, because there are very many, HJE Design, which is a program I used to use in my high school, which is still currently used, is used for editing yearbooks, but it is hosted on Flash, and the program hasn't updated since 2006, or it
Uh-oh.
hasn't had a significant change since 2006 because
If
they've
we're willing to hop on the Save Flash bandwagon, there's a project called I think Blue Maxima, which is trying to archive like as many Flash games as possible. Because I mean, honestly, like sites like Armor Games or whatever else, like what are they going to do when no browser supports them? So, assuming that they are going to disappear or whatever, this guy's been archiving, or I guess this team has been archiving a ton of Flash games. It's great.
I mean, Flash was good in its time because it was somewhat simpler than other technologies at the time. That is until JavaScript came out, which was just much more capable. But browsers didn't really have a whole lot of support, so Flash and ActionScript are really nice.
That like the role that mobile games have kind of taken to this point has also taken over the market that Flash used to have for the most part.
Yeah, they have the same market architecture.
Yeah, like the same niche too, like or niche something.
Niche,
like,
I don't know.
Like even the existence of like Flappy Bird, like that is a quintessential Flash game. Like
yeah, absolutely.
Like minimalistic controls, stupid difficulty, and just like pixel art graphics. There you go. You just made Flash. Like
easily. That's a Flash game. I mean, that's what a lot of mobile games now are nowadays, except with more pay to win concepts.
Yep, true. Hey, you want this Ruby Crystal? It'll just accelerate the gameplay. Don't worry. Yeah,
it just accelerates the game
faster.
Here you go, $30. Like Summoner's War. Summoner's War has these things called Mystic Scrolls, which are a 1 in 200 chance of pulling a 5-star monster. And you can actually buy a scroll that gives you a guaranteed 5-star monster, which is very rare, for $100 or 99.99.
Man, see, like that just makes me feel almost like guilty.
Yeah, this
just
is
on behalf of that company and also on behalf of anyone who bought that.
Okay,
wow.
So I might have bought it.
Oh my god! And the podcast is over. Goodbye, everybody.
Disposable income.
Oh man, what a great use of money.
Well, I mean, it is a very popular game. I can see why it's still up, and it does extremely well for itself. In fact, its revenue is one of the highest on the App Store.
Wow.
But we're talking about Realm of the Mad God and Revenge of the Fallen here, not Summoner's War mobile game.
Fair.
All right, give me a quick synopsis of Revenge of the Fallen.
All right, so I mean, we mentioned it quite a bit earlier, but in summary, it's Realm of the Mad God, trim off the pets, and then add runes and a skill tree. And try to maintain at least Deca level, preferably better stability. And I think we've met those criteria or those statements pretty well.
Deca and stability, Lamau.
Hey, I would argue that it is actually better than Kabam's stability, which is legit Kabam. Like it's garbage.
It is, yeah. Kabam was Deca is definitely a step up, and although they've had a few missteppings, I think they're doing very well for the game in comparison.
Yeah. As much as like ROTF players and like staff members will like meme and shit on Deca, like they're good. They're doing all of the right things in my opinion. They've fucked some things up, but like in terms of direction and I think that they could work on community relations a bit and talk to us a little more, but generally they're really going the right way. They're improving tech. They're adding heroic dungeons with no pets. Woo! They're definitely doing the right thing. They're introducing new dungeons that are relatively, pretty much all like high quality. They're good.
I mean, do you call the Lost Halls high quality? That is This is an actual question, by the way. This isn't sarcastic.
Sometimes. Okay. Fat sometimes. I think there's extreme value in dungeons like that are, first of all, just really long. I think the individual rooms, like in the corridors, whatever, could be a little more interesting. I know that this is kind of a meme in some Realm of the Mad God Discords right now, or chats, but we just released, or I guess it's not just anymore, it's been a while, but we released a dungeon called the Twilight Necropolis, which aimed to be a similar, fairly long dungeon. At least pretty large map, whatever else. I guess it's more on the vein of Shatters, but it's a decently long dungeon.
Well, basically a raid dungeon.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's not one that you're gonna want to solo, and you're gonna want people that aren't incompetent. But like I kind of think there's a healthy balance between like a 15-minute dungeon or whatever and like Lost Halls.
Oh my god.
It just takes so freaking long. You have like a group that's like this size, like half the server it feels like is in the Lost Halls dungeon, and it still takes as long as it does. It's just like, ugh.
Of course, if you have decent players, you can rush past things, but I mean, you shouldn't have to. I don't feel like.
Yeah. I don't like when rushing becomes like a core part of the dungeon, or when it almost seems like it's not optional, unless you're gonna just take forever.
Oh, that's I'm more sorry. Do you mean every dungeon?
Okay, fair. But the thing is, I think like doing a good job with rushing is a skill. Meanwhile, when you're only rushing to avoid a stupid amount of grind, that's just poor dungeon design. Here I am. I'm a small orb. Later.
And that's one character dead.
Yeah. So in fairness, RotF has a lot of one-shotting monsters.
You fool.
But see, we all say that they're fair until they kill us, and then they feel a little less fair. But generally speaking, they're pretty fair. It's pretty well defined how they're going to attack, and or at least the monsters that are going to one-shot. How they're going to attack or what their patterns are, which shots are clearly going to blow you up and which ones aren't. But we do have a lot of one-shotting abilities. I've watched this poor guy. We released a new dungeon called the Icy Peaks, and the event that drops the portal is like the Mad Yeti, the Angry Yeti. And I watched this poor guy walk up to it thinking he was hot shit, gets instant killed, goes into my DMs just screaming at me, "What the fuck is this event? I died in one hit." He's so mad. Guy was an 8/8 character, 82 out of 82 skill points, died instantly, took like 3 shots, died instantly. Felt so bad.
Was it 3 consecutive shots, or was it 3 shots immediately at once?
So they weren't like stacked shots, but they were it was a pattern where if you stand in the absolute worst spot, you can get hit by 3 shots at once. I think he got hit by all 3 at once.
Okay, I think that's fair then. Because that's not what I mean by one shot. Because the ice spear is what I mean by one shot, and that's a pretty high bar to meet.
Fair, but at the same time, like there are still multiple projectiles, so borderline. But yeah, ice spear is iffy.
It's definitely up there for things that I and a lot of other people feel are unfair. Because what I think is fair is the one shot in Orcs 2's new phase. You know, the Star phase.
I think I've seen videos of it, but I have not played the official game in so long.
Okay, so he throws a star, and it does about 100 damage, and then it splits off into 6 individual shots, which each do 600 damage as well. So if you sit on one, you're taking 600 damage, but it moves in a very predictable pattern.
Okay.
And you shouldn't get immediately one shot. If you do sit on a star, you should have time to react if you don't have your health topped off. If you do have your health topped off, I mean.
So there's a monster in the galaxies of Realms of the Fallen that shoots these rock things. He's the stone keeper, stone taker. And he shoots these little rock projectiles, and if you get hit by it, it paralyzes you, and then it explodes. So you have to kind of gauge, first of all, if you have a rune called Blissful Ignorance, you don't get any status effects. So you don't get any negative disables, but you also don't get any buffs. You can't get pally buff, but you also don't get any confused buffs or any debuffs or anything like that. It's a cool rune.
That's a very good rune. I like that. That's good design.
It's fun. Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, if you have that rune, you can just not care. You can just, get paralyzed. I'm still walking. I don't care. But you have to gauge, am I going to get one shot? And it's a pretty troll paralyzed, but it's fun because there is a warning before the rock lands. It's not necessarily predictable, but it targets you, so you just bait it to attack one spot and walk away. It's good.
Kind of like the lightning from Tetsucatl.
Yeah, I see it.
Because that does like 350 damage, but it has a target and it shows up and it flashes for 3 seconds. You should be able to avoid that.
You better move.
You better move. There is a blinking sign on your screen and it freezes for a little bit, so you have time. Don't complain about the lightning being unfair.
It's always so funny though because everyone always says don't complain about XYZ until it kills them, and then they're screaming about it.
I don't really complain about anything in Realm of the Mad God besides the whole ice sphere thing. That's honestly my only irk, and I've only gotten killed by it once, and that was when I was very new. And I'm like,
Okay, fair.
I was still being taught Realm of the Mad God, and I was asking the person who was teaching me, there's this thing called a shatters. Do I go in it? It's on these black tiles. And they're like, don't go in it. And I'm like, I'm in it. There's this blue
Boom, boom, boom.
and that was my first 2-8 death.
Welcome to Realm of the Mad God.
Yep, that was my first introduction to Realm of the Mad God's true mechanics. One shots.
All right, well, you still did better than me dying at level 1, so call it victory. Because, well, my friends told me, oh, it's easy. You just TP into Godlands, you get on the fame train. I'm like, oh, okay. So I TP, get one shot. Okay, good game, looking good.
Yeah, some Markiplier level introduction content.
I literally, I was, when I was first playing, I was literally doing the Markiplier move where you just int all the way into Godlands and just get one shot. It was stupid. It was great.
Hey,
someone showed me, hey, I do play League.
Okay, I thought so because you said int, and I'm
Do
like,
the int turn? Yeah, int tip me out.
dirty league player, get out of my chat.
I mean, honestly, Skill League doesn't play League, but the entire way that our rune system works, where it's like, you have 4 different types of runes. There's a resolve rune and whatever else, was originally based on the concept art for the League runes. It transfers over like surprisingly well. I mean, obviously they're very different genres, but like having gameplay altering runes is really fun, regardless of what the game is. If you're playing a certain type of character,
It's understandable. I want to see like a rune build for like DPS priest or something.
Yeah,
like how you can do skill trees in Dota, or
for a second I thought you meant like in ROTF trying to make a DPS priest, and I'm like, iffy, but okay.
Oh wait, no, that is what I meant though, because
it is
in something like Dota or I'm trying to think of the name, Heroes of the Storm. You can build your characters based on how you want to have them. So you can have a mage with a level 25 talent of 250 damage to their
so
attacks.
You totally could do that, but I think the main reason I was memeing on is like it's kind of weird to think there's a meta, but there is a meta.
There is.
And I would have to say that DPS priest probably not up there, but I mean, like, at the same time, I'm going to go play that now.
Yeah, you can do it. People will do it for free. If it is possible, people will do it.
Yes. I saw. Well, I mean, there's one wand in the game that's like blatantly the best, which is probably bad, but it's fun. You could totally do it on a priest with that wand, but it's called the Apex Bulwark. A little strong. There's a streamer, I think named Big Meaty Petey. Saw the name. Yeah. But he sometimes has these ridiculous builds that he plays. But it's cool. I can talk about some of the runes that we have too. Like I mentioned B Pact earlier, or Blood Pact, which is where your mana bar disappears, and instead all of your abilities cost HP. So I know you mentioned League. Think Vladimir from League of Legends, but on any character.
Oh, you see, I don't like Vladimir.
Priests. It is. The exception being priests, where that would be kind of obviously bad if you could perma-heal. So that one, you just lose HP and you heal everyone around you. It's still an option, but I wouldn't do it. There's a rune called Bulwark, which makes you stupidly high HP. I think it what is it? Like 200,000? It's some stupid buff to your HP. I see people running around with like 2k HP, but it significantly reduces your damage, your move speed, and whatever else. So you just kind of become a tank. Oh, also, and every monster will aggro you if they're in sight.
Okay, you passed off the chance to call it Juggernaut, but I'll let it slide.
Next time.
Maybe next time.
But we have that rune. Trying to think if there are any other cool ones. Perfectionist, you get extra damage if you have full HP, but you lose damage if you take any damage, basically, if you're not on full HP. Stuff like that. Just little stat changes or whatever in exchange for cool gameplay mechanics.
I think this is very cool gameplay mechanics. I really like what Revenge of the Fallen does, and I've never played it, but I'm definitely interested now.
Play ROTF.
Okay, maybe. Big maybe.
I've been saying all along, as soon as Bakurivox makes a Twilight Necropolis guide, I can die. We're good.
All right, it's time to force him to play RotF.
Dude, I joined the Discord, right? I messaged him and I was like, let me actually see if I can pull it up. I was like, yo, real talk. If you could, yeah, I said, let me see what I said. Hey, would you be at all interested in making a dungeon guide for the Twilight Necropolis? It's a dungeon that we added to ROTF after over a month of work on it, whatever. And he's like, yo, is Deca going to ban me? So I explained to him, actually, I mean, a ton of YouTubers have been doing a mix of the two, and also their terms of service, like, I mean, we might get shat on, but you'd be fine. Kabam used to freak out when people would play in private service. They would just ban everybody. It was really weird. But Deca seems like they don't care. Or if they do care, they have not expressed that.
I think peace service should be a good thing. I mean, obviously, like, they take a slight cut from revenue, but not a noticeable amount. Because slightly less attention is given to their game, but I think it's very healthy for the game to build a community like Revenge of the Fallen, and I think Deca recognizes that, whereas Kabam, the money grubbing assholes that they're known for, are kind of just like, oh, this is my $3.
I sort of also feel that, like, I mean, I could be wrong, but the heroic dungeons in Realm are very, very similar to the epic dungeons that we have in ROTF. I don't know if it is that heavily taken, but I would, with almost certainty, say inspired. Because we've been running those epic dungeons for a pretty long time. I actually think as soon as Hayes posted his video on it, in the comments, I think someone said, like, looks like someone's been playing ROTF ... LOL.
Yeah, people started commenting like they're starting to pull things from RotF and Elder Realms,
which honestly felt kind of cool to read.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie,
it was pretty cool to read. Made us feel pretty cool, and it's. I saw people in the comments of one of Hayes' videos being like, gotta still give credit to the original game. I mean, like, They did so much to make Realm ROTF work, and we're like, whoa, wait, we're not that much better. Chill. Obviously that was a hyper selected comment, but it still made me smile. But also like, hold up.
We're all people trying different shit. You can
Yep.
We're all trying to do our own thing here.
But it felt cool.
Yeah, that is nice. I do definitely appreciate that effort on Deca's part, and you can see this is one of those clear decisions where it's like they don't have any interests of making revenue from this. Of course, the key will cost a certain amount of gold, but that's a given for any other dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely no like ulterior motive behind this. This was a community requested feature that they people really wanted to have, and they implemented it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. It is really fun too. Love the hell out of it. Have you have you done the dungeons on prod?
The heroic ones, yes. Or I did. Wait, which ones have they released so far? Because I played. I forget which ones I played on testing. Because I haven't played any of them on live, but I played one or two of them on testing.
Okay, so the UDL one is currently live, but the Abyss one isn't currently out yet.
I know I played the UDL one on testing. I want to say I played it on live too, but like again, I have not logged into the official game in so long. Maybe not. But it played well, and I watched Bakurivox's video, and it was like, oh, this looks good. It's our content, but it looks good. Yeah. Going back to Unity, actually, just for a second. I know I posted a few screenshots and videos to Hayes' chat, but some people might be aware we are also working on a Unity port because, hey, look, Flash is still being deprecated in 2020, regardless of whether we're Deca or not. We're still fucked. So we've been working on our Unity port as well, and it's been okay. We started work on it a pretty long time ago, but we didn't do anything until like I want to say the past like month. And in a month in a month's time, we already are connecting. We can walk around. We have projectiles. We have monsters. We have damage working, locking. Like we have 3D working. We have quadruple Deca's frame rate. And I think at some point Skilly just goes at Miniguy. He pings me and he goes, "What the fuck is Deca doing, man?" And again, this is keeping in mind that at least I personally, and I think most of the other staff members, have a lot of respect for these guys. But we all kind of, rose our hand like, hey, the Unity campaign, what is that?
Yeah, what is this?
Where is this?
For?
What is this funding for? We're not making any additional revenue besides what we make off of our normal premium purchases and gold. We're not asking for a Unity campaign or anything. We're just doing it. And I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. But if you have salaried developers, I'm surprised at the progress they've made given the amount of time they've had. And also, I'm very surprised at the 44 FPS we saw in some of those videos. I know it's early access or early teaser, whatever. But the thing is, we also have our early teasers, and we get 200 frames. I don't get it.
I mean, you can never know with these types of things because they are, this is an official game studio, and definitely they have some professionalism, and they know what they're doing to an extent. Could they be doing it better? They probably could, but they could be running into financial issues, especially since they do have to hire an entirely separate team for Unity engineers in their programming department.
So, question. Why?
I think it's the lack of experience, because these are people who have worked with Flash for a while. I'm not sure if the official staff have had.
As a heads up, Flash is you use ActionScript 3 is the language for Flash.
Yes, ActionScript.
The server that Realm uses is in C++. So, and Unity uses C#. Those are 3 different languages, and for what it's worth, if you know ActionScript 3 and you know C++, you're going to know C#. It's very straightforward. And so the only thing left really is to learn Unity specifically as an engine. Skilly and I had never used Unity before this, and we already have this working. So it's like, I know obviously, like you said, I don't want to be like, oh, they're just not trying hard. If they're not working, like obviously, again, like you said, they're a professional game studio. They have, corporate demands to meet, and all, they have to pay literally for their HQ. And I know that there's so many, business-y things that they have to take care of that
the Unity license
make it complicated.
As well as,
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things, but and when we say what are they doing, we're mostly joking, but underneath that there is still sort of a question of why. We have had to slow down updates a bit on ROTF as we work on the Unity port, but we're currently, I don't want to say ahead of them in development because they have a lot of UI stuff already done. We don't. We only have in-game stuff done. So I wouldn't say we're ahead, but you're
keeping up.
We've got a lot done already.
Yeah,
we've got almost all gameplay stuff done. We need to add death screens. We need to add UI stuff, and we need to add player attacking, which is straightforward, to say the least. We'll see. We'll see if we release before them. We'll see. But it just, considering, like you said, that they are a professional company and that they are a real studio and that they have professionalism and whatever else, I just wonder, why are they getting 44 frames per second?
I'm sure there's
that was my biggest concern.
There is likely a reason behind it. I wouldn't know because I'm not a programmer, so most of mine is outside looking in, which is always
no, you're fine.
What my perspective is, but I know business and corporations, which is where my knowledge area lies, and I know that there are a lot of things that go on with the business, especially a game studio, like finances, parent companies, etc., etc.
Do you know, is Deca Games a standalone company? Do they have a parent company?
I've never looked into it actually. All I know is that
I'm
they do have
curious.
separate development teams for different games, which is why I
I do know
questioned
that they
if
have the mobile
these.
teams and whatever
Yeah,
else.
they do have mobile teams, and I wondered if any of them were people that moved over, or if they were people that were hired that previously worked at Kabam, Spry Fox, or Wild Shadow.
Because I know when Deca first took over a few devs from Kabam State, I read up on it a bit. I mean, again, I'm not pretending to understand the business side of things that well, but it just seems to me like, above all else, forgetting even bad programming or bad management, what I really am is I'm just disappointed. Like, I know I've said this a lot, but like, I like Deca and I like Realm, and I want to see that client like bring the game back into like the limelight, and it just doesn't look that good. It looks promising, and if they clean up the frame rate and clean things up, I'm really really hyped. But again, I watched the podcast with GHCD, and everyone was really hype about it, and I was like, I don't know if they can do all of that yet. There's so much cleanup needed. It's just not. And again, I know early trailers and whatever else, but it doesn't look at all like a standalone product yet, which is scary.
Yeah, I mean, it'll take some time. I mean, even just like right now, looking at their their website, they are still trying to hire a senior Unity engineer since they don't really have an experienced one. Still looking for a server engineer, and there are actually more open positions here, like Android developer and iOS developer, because of course they have
I
to.
saw that too, actually.
Yeah, they have to, support their other games.
All right, well, Deca, if you are listening, and if you can actually outpay what we make from our RTF, we are senior Unity engineers. Yep. Hire us. We will fix your game and delete the pets free of charge.
If you actually applied, hey, maybe you could get a job there.
To be honest,
you'd have to move to Germany though.
Well, actually, we looked. Remote is supported, they said, but I mean, we were actually curious about it, and then ultimately we realized, I mean, first of all, financially, I think we might actually be better off doing what we're doing. We'll see.
Follow your nose.
I don't know what the Deca salary is, but we might be. And we have a lot of fun getting to work on the content and the systems and the whatever that we want to work on. So we wouldn't apply. But in all honesty, purely in terms of technical prerequisites, we met all of them. But then it was like, oh yeah, 5+ years of developing AAA games, and we're like, who are you looking for? So we don't have that. But anyway, it was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of interesting things about Deca that I've seen that I don't see in a whole lot of other game development companies. Even indie game development companies, they're pretty different from like the norm.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think they have a publisher, do they?
I feel like they are their own publisher, right? I think Deca Games is the publisher.
Yeah, that would make them
I want to check.
That would basically make them indie. So
Deca Games is an indie publisher.
Okay.
When does that ever go together?
Well, I mean, you publish your own works, because if you don't publish them, who does? Like,
actually, a lot of times indie game developers do get a publisher of some sort. Even if it's a publisher like focused on indie games, I don't think that makes them an indie publisher.
It doesn't, because indie means self-published works, essentially.
Right.
Self-published and self-funded.
So this is just weird.
Yeah, it's just, but, in essence,
the
they're
game
indie.
Stardew Valley, for example?
Yes.
Stardew Valley is an indie game, but it's published by, or it was published, I guess they just broke apart, but they were published by something else.
Yeah, I need to look into... I'd like to look into that, because I've been following Chucklefish for a very long time, and I very much enjoyed Starbound.
Yeah, there it is. That's what it is. Because it was made by Concerned Ape, right? But it was published by Chucklefish. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, interesting. I think some people were joking about it in the chat earlier, but we just recently finalized the process of becoming a company and stuff. So we are actually a real game studio now, which is kind of cool.
Oh, the RotF team?
Yeah.
Wow, what's your guys' name?
We are Aced Games. We had to register an LLC and everything, but
nice.
It was really cool.
That's good. That's
We have
good.
a
You
whole
could grow
dev
something
blog
out of
and
it.
everything for our Unity stuff. It's
I'd
exciting.
I'd love to see what future projects you guys have. Like,
So we were working on that one single player game at one point. We didn't have a name for it. We decided if we came up with a name for it, we would not be able to let it go, even if it was shit. So we called it like placeholder project or something like that, or like goofy game, I forget. But we were working on a single player bullet hell game that was actually story oriented as opposed to just shooting or just whatever. Because like I think the first game I would point to is Undertale. But a lot of games that when they do the story thing right, it can actually still mesh really well with like decently high action gameplay and not feel really boring. Because a lot of people play bullet hells because they're sick of these stupid stories or sick of great stories, and they just want to dodge 15,000 bullets at once,
me.
which is fair. It's fair. It's totally fair. But also, in fairness, is like anytime you have a game that has 15,000 bullets at once, I feel like the dialogue, if there's going to be any dialogue in stories, is some generic RPG bullshit, where it's just some boss saying something stupid and edgy, and then there you go. Now you have your boss fight. It's just stupid.
That's like MMOs, RPGs.
Yeah, it really is. But when you play bullet hells, you're not looking for that. I mean, like when you play Gungeon, even you get like the goofy, crazy splash art of whatever boss you're about to fight. But then it's like there's barely a story. I mean, there's lore, but at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're shooting some things and dodging everything. Like it just feels great. But it's hard to make a story that is engaging, interesting, and also fun, and doesn't make you feel at any time like you're bored or like you'd rather just be shooting everything.
Yeah, that's very rare. It's usually story, gameplay, and it's balanced between the two. Like The Last of Us has horrendous gameplay.
Yes, The Last of Us isn't a game; it's a movie. I say this all the time. It's a movie. It's a great movie.
You play it for the cutscenes, and you're
Yeah.
going through those dumb survival stages or like shootouts just so you can make it to the next cutscene.
Yep. You know what I actually did? I played it for like 20 minutes. I said nope. I put the controller down. I watched the entire thing on YouTube. It was such a good movie.
Yeah.
No lie. But it was a movie.
It is a movie. Yes.
For sure.
Just like what was that? Telltale Games.
Yeah. Although, I mean, rip them.
But rip Telltale Games. But it is nice having story elements that are driven by the gameplay, and they're not.
Yeah.
You're not forced into something dumb. It's just you make choices, and
Exactly.
it's like an interactive movie. Like Netflix picked up on those recently.
Mm-hmm. But also, I think one of the heart, and that's a whole separate thing, by the way. That's a cool thing Netflix is doing. That's cool. But that aside, I feel like that's honestly just where they put the rest of the Telltale devs, which is like good, I guess. That's probably all made up. I made that up, but it would be nice. But one of the reasons I bring up story is like having like a cutesy Undertale style, like kind of fun, kind of charming, whatever, like story can work really, really well with an intense bullet hell game. Because often with bullet hells, what you wind up with is either you're just bullet hell because you only want gameplay and gameplay only, or you wind up with The Last of Us where there's no gameplay, there's no bullet hell, there's nothing. It's just story. And there are really like a really small number of games that actually do a good job of balancing it. Even games like that I like have a huge amount of respect for that are AAA games. Things like Mario Odyssey. I mean, there's no story there.
No, there really isn't, or not.
And if there is, please get it away from me. I don't want that story. But then you look at Undertale, and it's like, whoa. So I'm like dodging the crap out of like a bunch of bullets at once, and I'm fighting this skeleton guy, and there's a story. You can do that. Like, obviously, the Undertale craze is maybe, thankfully, but over for the most part. But it's a good game, and I think might be the best balance of story / character, whatever, and actual gameplay, like, ever. Biased, but for me. And so we were working on a single player game which focuses a little more on bullet hell than Undertale did, and a little less on RPG, but is heavily focused on bullet hell, charming, witty story. Basically that.
I can see it working. I can see it being really hard to execute, but I'd love to see future projections of it, maybe previews and such, and I'm sure a lot of other people would.
We're looking forward to it. We have our little blog now, aced.gg, so that's cool. That project is on pause for now while we work on the Unity client, which is, by the way, also on ace.gg. You should check that out and also play ROTF. I'm just going to self-plug like as hard as I can, you know? But we've been posting updates there too. And the new game stuff, honestly, I wanted to work on it more than I wanted to work on the Unity client. And Skilly was like, yeah, but let's do Unity. And I was like, wait, but we've switched target projects like 3 times. Can we stay? And I think his brother, actually, who's our main designer, was like, yeah, Skilly, chill. let's stick to one project. And Skilly's like, okay, but what if we made that one project Unity? And I was like, fuck it, forget it, fine. let's work on Unity. And then we did a lot in like a month, so who cares? It's good.
Yeah, you guys are doing well for yourselves. All right, final comments and plugs besides, yes. Actually, hold on. One more question.
Sure.
Are you gay?
I can't tell if it's a sarcastic question, but I'm bi, I have a boyfriend.
Oh, you do?
So it's actually, yeah, so I know it's like mega sarcastic, but it's actually legit, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, it is a dumb sarcastic question. Anyways, Any final plugs you want to give out to
Don't worry, I still
listening?
get all the gay jokes, so it's still good.
Okay.
Final plugs. Deca, hire us. No bias. ROTF.io, Revenge of the Fallen, it's good. It's Realm of the Mad God without the pets. Aced.gg, that's where we're posting devlog updates for Unity stuff. Please come out and, check us out, play, maybe even like it, who knows? And yeah, thanks a ton for having me.
Yeah, it was really nice having you. I'd probably definitely bring you around again sometime.
Sweet. Yeah, and oh wait, one more thing, of course. The Curie box. Make me a dungeon guide. Okay, that's it.
All right, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Hey, this is Refkel, one of the hosts of Deca Debrief, making a quick announcement to say that we're probably coming back, or at least I am. Devil Province will be making a comeback sometime around next week. You'll start seeing episodes coming out more consistently. We're going to have Miniguy on the podcast, maybe a couple extra times, and he might become a regular host. As for Deca Debrief, there's a Zenyatta episode coming out, but Sammy is currently busy. We're both college students, or soon-to-be college students, so things will be getting busier around here. But I absolutely love Deca Debrief, and I really miss the podcast. Being able to record episodes and edit them. So it's time to get everything running again. If you want to support the podcast, you can go ahead and go to our Patreon. We're opening it back up. We never really closed it, but we made an announcement that people could pull out if they wanted to, because we wouldn't be making episodes for a while. It's been 2 months since we recorded the Zenyatta and Miniguy episode, so I should be releasing it here today on June 2nd or June 3rd. If you want, you can join the Discord. If you're not familiar with it, we're always chatting on Discord, even when episodes weren't coming out. And you can go ahead and share this podcast episode with your friends or your family, anyone else that you know, your mailman, your other mailman, mailman's mailman. I just want to say thank you for listening to this podcast. You support us not only by viewing it, but most of you can donate to us, which is kind of dumb because we don't do much. But we're glad you guys support us. Thank you.